Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me here for my first talk from the Naijin. My name is Teresa Shimagawa. Thank you. My name is Teresa Shimagawa, and I'm one of the minister's assistants here at OCBC. I'm super excited about the topic today because after all of these years hearing about dogs on this day, no offense to the dog lovers, but I get to wave my crazy cat lady flag and represent all the cat lovers. All Life Forms service acknowledges our appreciation and gratitude to all forms of life that make our lives possible and also enhance our enjoyment. We recognize the countless living forms that sustain and nurture our bodies, as well as the pets who add richness to our lives. Today, we get to hold space for all of your wonderful pets who have passed away in the last year. And I'm going to go ahead and read the names of some of those pets. Madigan Turner, who is a dog, a schnoodle. Noriko, a rabbit. Princess, a cat. Hokey Pokey, a tabby cat. Abby, a puppy. Cooper, a dog. Duffy Mercado, a dog. Chester, a guinea pig. And Daisy, a dog. We share this opportunity to remember and honor their legacy in our lives. Animals hold a special place in our hearts. They also happen to be fabulous teachers, which I'm going to talk about today. So we have a unique relationship with animals that dates something back to like 15,000 years. As of 2018, 68% of households in the United States had a pet of some kind. According to the Human-Animal Bond Research Institute, the human-animal bond is a mutually beneficial and dynamic relationship between people and animals that is influenced by behaviors that are essential to the health and well-being of both. Studies have shown that pet owners are less likely to suffer from depression and experience other health benefits simply by having a pet in their lives. Pets can help you meet new people. They can reduce anxiety. Pets add structure and routine in your day. For older people, pets can have a huge impact on their lives. They provide meaning and joy and a sense of connection. For children, pets are a loving companion who can help with separation anxiety, and kids who are emotionally attached to their pets are better able to build relationships in their future. Pets teach children empathy and understanding and can also teach them responsibility. So today I want to share with you about my orange tabby cat, Teddy. Teddy has taught me a lot of Buddhist lessons in the last 3.5 years, even though the only religion he subscribes to is mealtime and his sleep schedule. But there is something profoundly Buddhist about a cat's spirit. Today, I want to share with you what I learned from Teddy is the way I was able to reflect on my own life through him coming into our lives. So you see, Teddy came into our lives only after a series of misfortunate events. If circumstances were different, he would not be living in our house today. We would not have a cat. My late husband was severely allergic to cats, so it wasn't even like a discussion. It wasn't even an option that we ever considered. And if it hadn't been for COVID and us quarantining at home, we would not have gotten a cat. It's never lost on me that because of these moments of loss, we gain something in our lives that we really can't imagine not having today. And I just think life is wild like that. First, I should preface all of this by saying that I'm only somewhat of a recent animal lover, as weird as that sounds as somebody standing up here talking about my pets today. I grew up with dogs, but I never had really a connection with any of them. I even had dogs as an adult because my husband liked them, and I never ever experienced a deep connection with a single one of them, which is very sad to me today. I never owned a cat before 2020. I actually thought I hated cats. I was kind of raised in a household where we didn't like cats. We kind of just considered them these feral animals that ran around and used our garden beds as litter boxes. So I had no idea that I liked cats. It's very strange to be up here talking about cats today and admitting to you that I'm the kind of cat lady that shares cat memes all the time on social media. If you looked inside of my phone, you would find more pictures of my cats than my kids, and sadly. And I even have dish towels with cats printed on them. I'm that kind of cat lady. All in. So this all started with my daughter Eloise. She's the one to blame. There have been so many moments in my parenting journey where my kids have challenged my perspective about something, and I realized eventually that they were totally right. So Eloise has been wearing cat ear headbands since she was about 4 or 5 years old. You may have seen her wearing those around here. She's wearing them today. And since then, she has been lobbying for a cat all the time. And she had a specific vision in mind. She wanted an orange cat that would be a female named Ginger and fluffy. I was only able to satisfy one of those criteria because if you know anything about orange cats, about 80% of them are male. And by the time she wore me down and got me to agree to get her a cat, we were in the middle of a global pandemic, and everybody was racing around looking for pets to adopt. So it was actually very difficult to get a cat of any color at that time. I was really hesitant about it, even though I agreed to get one. I wasn't an animal person. I was actually a vegetarian who didn't really like animals. I liked them from afar. So I was very, very nervous. I was worried that this was going to be another pet that I would feel indifferent toward, like all of my dogs I had had in the past. It also felt a little unrealistic to take on more responsibility in the middle of this global pandemic, and I already had a lot of responsibility on my plate. And let's just be honest, there was a stigma of the cat lady. You know, I was widowed, single mother, almost 40 at the time, and cat lady was not really something I wanted to add to this depressing resume. But she's very persuasive, and so I was out there anyway, filling out application after application, trying to get her a cat. And then eventually, through a friend of a friend, we were matched with Teddy from a rescue. And any doubts I had about having a cat instantly dissolved when we brought Teddy home. He destroyed every single one of my preconceived notions about what it was like owning a cat. He is super friendly and social. He greets strangers at the door. He cuddles with us. We can kiss him. The kids can carry him around. I mean, they've done everything to him. He puts up with all of it. I had all these rules, too, about what it would be like having a cat. I told my kids, they're not allowed on my bed, ever. And from day one, Teddy, he makes the rules now. He's the boss. And it confused me so much by how much I love this cat. I had spent my entire life thinking I hated cats. I would even scoff at people I knew who were all about their animals. I had one friend in mind who had cats, and I just was always making fun of her about being a cat lady. And the truth was, I just couldn't wrap my mind around that kind of love. Now I wonder how I could have gone so many years without knowing that kind of love. So one day, about 5 months after we got Teddy, he began to throw up. And long story short, I got him a scratching post from, I don't know, Amazon or something, and he unraveled part of it. And he got an obstruction in his intestines, and he became very, very sick. This was the height of COVID, so it was not easy being seen by a vet. They were all booked. And we finally got into one, and we were given 2 options. One was to put him to sleep, because without treatment, he was going to die. He was already very, very sick by the time we got seen. The other option was to pay for surgery, and they told us up front that there was a high probability that it was not going to work. He would for sure have permanent damage to his internal organs, and oh yeah, it would cost about $3,000. And I just remember sitting in the parking lot, because this was during the COVID protocols where they didn't let you inside, so you handed off your pet and waited in the car. And I'm trying to make this decision. and I want to be responsible about it. And I remember being on the phone with my dad and him telling me, oh, you need to put this cat to sleep. I grew up in a household where cats, or any animal, if we didn't have cats, any animal had to be low cost and low maintenance, and there were no exceptions to that rule. So I had never really wandered into this territory before. It was the most expensive animal-related bill I had ever had. And I wasn't sure what to do. But my kids knew. They knew right away. They were offering their allowance money. They were promising their Christmas gifts for the next several years, anything to save their cat. And I think eventually the answer was obvious to me as well. I think I knew, because Teddy was more than a cat to me. He was even more than family. I never expected to love an animal the way I loved Teddy. He gave me the gift of hope, this realization that my life had so many more happy discoveries to make, things I didn't know about myself that I was still going to discover. So much more joy to experience, and likely a lot more heartache as well. But it was all worth it. And I think my mind was set when I handed him off to the vet, and it felt like I was handing off a piece of my heart. There was no other option. We were too far in love to consider anything else. And you know, if there's one thing about losing my husband, what that taught me, it's that time is precious, it's fleeting, and it's priceless. And we don't get to control a lot of things in life. I would argue we probably don't get to control most things. But out of the choices we do get to make, we should choose the heck out of them. This is a gift I never want to take for granted. And we were super fortunate. We were quarantining at home, so we were able to nurse him back to health. And he eventually recovered with no complications. It was amazing. Sometimes in life, we get our best case scenarios. We don't often get that. So when it does happen, we should sit with it, sit in that moment of joy, and just be present for it, because it's not always going to happen that way. When it does, we should savor it. It's not lost on me that we would have never gotten a cat if my husband were still alive or if the pandemic had never happened. And of course, I would rather take a world where he were here and COVID-19 was never a thing. But in lieu of those options, I get to live in this silver lining where my household has today now expanded to 3 cats, officially making me a full-blown cat lady. I even lived to see the day where I published an essay about it on Vox, which I think levels me up as cat lady. So it is said that the Buddha said that I teach only suffering and the transformation of suffering. And the late Buddhist teacher Thich Nhat Hanh wrote that without suffering, you cannot grow. Without suffering, you cannot get the peace and joy you deserve. Embrace your suffering and let it reveal to you the way to peace. Often in life, we get boxed into these ideas about who we think we are. And these fixed conceptions of self cause us to suffer because life is impermanent. Nothing stays the same. And in Buddhism, a person is regarded as a collection of rapidly changing and interacting mental and physical processes. And we have these character patterns that reoccur over some time, but we only have partial control over these processes. So inevitably, they're going to change in undesired ways, and this is going to lead us to suffer. In our minds, these labels that we adopt for ourselves, they're static. We think they're forever. And it's very difficult for us to accept changes. You may define yourself as a wife, but then your husband dies, and then who are you? You may define yourself as a teacher, and then you retire, and then who are you? You may think you are on team cat or team dog, but have you ever owned a pet tortoise? Some of you are young, and you have fixed ideas about your future. You may have your heart set on a particular college, and then by a myriad of circumstances beyond your control, ones in which you'll never understand and you'll likely never get an explanation for, you don't get into that college. And you might wonder, who am I now that I won't go to that school? Some of you will experience your first love, and when the relationship doesn't work out, You may feel in that moment that you'll never find somebody else that you love like that person. And those feelings are brutal. But all of these feelings and all of these labels that we have in our lifetime, they're fleeting. They're not forever. There's still so much more joy that you will experience in your life. Joy that you probably can't even conceptualize as you sit here today, but may actually be lurking right around the corner. It will be right around the corner. That's a promise. It's likely already right in front of you, and with a little perspective change, you'll begin to see it too. What if I told you that no matter how old you are, there is still so much to learn about yourself and the world around you, that you can still be surprised and discover hidden gems inside of you? I think that's pretty exciting. Kyoto Haguri wrote in his book, The Awareness of Self, that this fixed conception of who we think we are is merely our acquired self. He explains it like the story of the crow and the peacock in Aesop's fables. In that story, the crow thinks he's ugly. He's a black crow. He's plain, right? He's one color. The peacock, who he thinks is beautiful, is lots of different colors. So he gathers the peacock's feathers and decorates himself with it. And then he thinks he's beautiful. But then a gust of wind blows, and all the feathers fall off of him, and now he's back to being just a plain crow. Haguri wrote that the winds that blow off the feathers of our acquired self are sickness, old age, and death. These are the forms of suffering that Shakyamuni Buddha encountered when he wandered outside of the palace and saw suffering for the first time. These are the forms of suffering that made him want to leave to seek the truth. And Haguri wrote in his book that the essence of Shin Buddhism is to awaken to reality, which includes seeing ourselves for who we really are. I believe that animals can help us see our true selves. They make us softer, they bring us joy, they teach us to love selflessly, and they remind us of the wonderful feeling we get as human beings when we set aside our own wants and needs and care for somebody else. That's that we versus me that Reverend Harada talked about a few weeks ago. When I love my cat, I don't do it for a job promotion or more money. I don't love Teddy because I'm going to gain anything other than this pure connection I experience between us two sentient beings. Nobuo Haneda wrote in Dharma Breeze that the Bodhisattva spirit is the spirit that is concerned with the happiness of all sentient beings, forgetting one's own happiness. He said that when we meet the Bodhisattva spirit, we can forget our own happiness. This self-forgetfulness is actually the experience of our true happiness. In many ways, I think it's easier to love an animal than it is a human. Our pets don't lie to us like humans do. They aren't going to be jealous like humans are. We're not going to fight about money. They're going to take whatever time we spend with them, even if it's not enough, and they're going to appreciate us and still love us. Animals are not going to argue with us like humans do. They're not going to talk back, although my cat kind of talks back, but not like a human. We get the last word every single time, and they still love us 100%. When I think about my cat, Teddy, I think about love. He brings us so much love. He's helped me expand my capacity to love. And don't judge me, but because of Teddy, in the last 3 years, this capacity to love has expanded to 3 kids, 3 cats, 2 dogs, and 1 betta fish. Final score, I hope, but you never know. This, I believe, is because of Teddy, because he helped me show that bond that I could have with an animal. And I think he's helped me love myself more. And with all of this love, we build our capacity to love others better. Humans need love, and animals need love. My challenge to you today, especially for the younger people learning to navigate their lives, but also for people my age who struggle with our imperfections, is to show the utmost care and love for all life forms, animals and humans. We are all interconnected, and when we love others better, we ultimately love ourselves better. And it just becomes this cycle that keeps on giving and making the world a better place. Thank you so much for listening today. If you can please join me in Gassho. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu.